Greetings, scoundrels and sellswords. Welcome to Happy Accidents, brought to you by Wizard Business. I'm your host, Torrential Drizz. Let's dive right in. What I got for you here today is a Were-Alligator from Reaper. Last time we used some plastic putty to fill in the seams along his tail and under his arm and his jaw area. Now what we're going to do is I noticed a little flash line along the bottom of his tail I want to zip off, so I'll show you how to do that, and then we're going to dive right into painting this guy some fun base coat colors, which I've got for you here. We got this nice cayman green, gory red for the inside of his mouth, black. I'm going to paint his nails black so that they really pop later when we highlight them, and then this cold gray for his base. So let's dive right in, gang. Let's get in there. I'm really excited for this piece because it is mostly one color, so I'm going to play around with some of that hue variation to create some dynamic stuff. Make his belly a little bit different color from his back, and maybe play around with the tips of his tail and stuff like that. So I'm really excited to see how this turns out. I'm going to pop this off of the mini holder just for a second. And if you notice here, on the bottom of his tail, I don't know how visible that is, but you can kind of see a little seam that runs down the middle. There you go. Now you can see it right there. That the plates are supposed to be just one piece. You can kind of see that seam there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this little jeweler's file, and I'm going to use it to clean off the flash there. Just gently filing away. As we're doing this, we're really trying to work to preserve the natural curve of the sculpt itself, so I'm trying not to change the shape of it too much, just get rid of that little bit of extra. I think I've done that. So I'm going to take my brush, get it a little bit wet, and just wipe that area off, try and get all the little plastic dust off there. That'll just help the paint stick a little bit better when the time comes. There we go. Okay. All right, so now this guy is ready for base coating. Awesome. Let's start with the inside of his mouth. Let's take this gory red color and mix it up really good. Wet my brush and just go right into that gory red. And just make an effort to paint just the inside of his mouth here. If we get a little red on his teeth, that's actually okay. That's going to help the teeth show up a little more against his red gums if there's kind of that transition happening there. As it is, it looks like he just took a big bite out of somebody. We'll soften that color up with some kind of pinkish highlights later on. Okay, that's about all you need for the inside of the mouth. Let's switch over to that cayman green color. This is kind of a nice swampy kind of green, and we're going to add to this later by adding some more bluish, greenish colors and yellowish colors to really bring out that color palette. For now, let's just stick with the cayman green. Wet my brush again. Once again, I'm using the long edge of the brush to try and paint broad strokes over these large surfaces so that you get nice even coverage. Back is pretty bumpy, but even still, we want to try and get even coverage. I'm continually wetting my brush so that the paint remains at a nice milky consistency. You can probably see here a little that when I paint through his flank, there's a little bit of gray showing through. That means the paint is just the right thickness. So we'll have to come back over and do that coat again, but it means that we're not covering up all those fine details of the sculpt. Paint goes on too thick, you'll cover up all those details, and that'll make it harder for you to add highlights and shadows later. You need that sculpt. Alright, that looks pretty good for a first coat. We'll come back and give that another once over here in a minute after I give it a chance to dry a little bit. In the meantime, I'll start laying down some cold gray on the base. Once again, clean off my brush real good, get it wet, come right in that cold gray, mix it up to a nice milky consistency, and we'll just start along the base here. Okay, we'll give this just another minute to dry or so, and then... Okay, I've given this a chance to dry, so now I'm going to put a little more cayman green out there. And we're just going to get right back into it. Wet my brush again. Go right into that cayman green. Now we're just targeting spots that look a little thin, like on his hand here. One more thing I want to add to this is a little bit of black. And see, what that's going to do is create, once we put the highlights on his claws, it's going to create a real obvious distinction, like where the nail ends and where the digit begins, by having a little black outline, basically. And that's kind of an optical illusion that we're using to create that effect. So I'm just going to put a little black out on my palette here. Don't need much paint because we're painting just such a tiny little surface here. Just leave it standing here. Doesn't look like much right now, but once I put the actual bone color on there, it's gonna really pop. Let's do the other hand. Actually, the other hand is looking kind of wet still, so let's do maybe the underside of this hand. If I wanted to, I could probably paint some of these ridges like more of a bone color, but I think I'm going to leave those green and make that like more part of his carapace than an actual bony protrusion, but each artist could interpret this a different way, I think, and it would still look pretty cool. Okay, that actually turned out pretty good. So now we've got this base-coated Were-Alligator. Looking pretty cool already, frankly. Once we put a wash coat on there and then some highlights, I think this is going to look really sweet. Might even do some ink washes to kind of change the color hue of certain areas of his body, make his tail a little darker, maybe his arms as well, and his back. And then, yeah, this guy is looking pretty dang good. Probably going to do something cool for his eyes there. There's a nice little spot for a sclera and a pupil there. So this one should turn out pretty cool. Thanks again for joining us. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you smash that like and subscribe. And don't forget to check out other videos on this channel for some more awesome mini painting tips. This has been Happy Accidents, brought to you by Wizard Business. I'm your host, Torrential Driz. Join us again next time, won't you?